a $1.7 billion US deal to create the world's largest silver company. Hello and welcome to Kitco Mining with me, Paul Harris. Joining me to tell me more is Mitchell Krebs, President and CEO of Coeur Mining. Mitchell, welcome to Kitco.
Hi, Paul. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Now, Coeur has just announced an all-stock transaction to buy SilverCrest Metals for $1.7 billion US at a 22% premium to obtain the Las Chispas silver mine in Sonora in Mexico. This transaction will boost the company's 2025 production to an estimated 21 million ounces of silver and 432,000 ounces of gold, making Coeur the largest silver producer. Las Chispas is a standout asset. Why is it attractive?
Yeah, thanks again for having me. We're excited about this opportunity. Las Chispas is really one of a kind operations in terms of its grade, its margin, its cost profile. There's really not another asset like it in the world. And what it does for our company when combined with our growth coming out of our Rochester expansion that we just completed in Nevada really puts a 1-2 punch together that leads to a real leader in our sector, both in terms of production profile, and also in terms of cash flow. And combined then what it does for our balance sheet, it really helps us accelerate our deleveraging of our balance sheet, which has some elevated debt coming out of that expansion that we just wrapped up.
Now, we saw another silver transaction a few weeks ago. Was this a competitive process for SilverCrest?
Well, this goes back, well into the middle of last year. So it's something that we had been considering and evaluating. 12 months ago, 15 months ago, we knew we weren't in a position to do anything at that time. We knew we still had to deliver on the Rochester expansion. But as we saw things unfold and advance in Nevada, we saw a window of opportunity here opening up for us, just given the strength in the metals markets, strength in our share price, this opportunity being actionable. And with what we saw that we could create together, we saw this as a good time and a one in a lifetime kind of opportunity to create something really, really special.
Now, you also have other operations in Mexico, Palmarejo in the neighboring state of Chihuahua. Do you see potential synergies there between Palmarejo and the asset in Sonora?
Yeah, I think over time there will be opportunities that arise as the two teams start to work together and share best practices and ideas. As it is right now, the team at Palmarejo has been doing a spectacular job. We want them to continue to focus on doing more of that and staying safe and efficient. Meanwhile, the team at Las Chispas has done a terrific job ramping up that operation, and we want them to continue to focus on everything they're doing. But over time, yeah, I think that it's fair to say there'll be some opportunities to realize some synergies, some savings, some efficiencies, exchanging of best practices that will benefit both operations.
Now, Las Chispas has a reserve mine life of 8 years. Presumably, you see quite a bit of exploration upside at the asset. What's your view of the future there?
Yeah, we do. It's early days there at Las Chispas. The first discovery hole was only 9 years ago. Over the last 3 years or so, they've been very focused on building and then ramping up Las Chispas. They're only really now starting to get going on the exploration side. It's not a huge land package, but it's a very rich and very dense land package in terms of repetitive, high-grade silver gold veins. I think they're up to almost 100 veins, some of which have mineralization defined in reserve and resources. Many of them still remain to be drilled. So in the immediate mine area, we see plenty of opportunity in the near term to focus on exploration, to see ourselves, extend that mine life. But, for an underground mine to have an 8-year reserve mine life is a great place to start.
Now, I mentioned at the top, this pro forma will make Coeur the largest silver company. At the moment, you're very, very heavily weighted towards gold. How will this change your gold-silver ratio?
Yeah, this combination will change our company in two ways. One, more silver. So our silver production, our silver revenue as a percent of total will be more like 40%. So that's up from just over 30%. So given the overall demand supply profile for silver, we think that's a good thing and something that our investors have wanted us to do, add more silver. So between what we're bringing online at Rochester in terms of production growth post-expansion, the addition of Las Chispas and its silver production really does meaningfully boost our overall silver profile. It also obviously adds a bit more Mexico exposure. So we'll be about 60% US, 40% Mexico in terms of our revenue split. So 3 operations in the US, 2 in Mexico. We think that's a nice North America-centric platform to go forward with.
Now, this deal seems to tick a lot of boxes for you for Coeur Mining, Mitch. I can understand, looking at social media, a number of SilverCrest shareholders are perhaps hoping for a higher takeout price or a higher run-up as the silver market continues to expand. And yet, despite all the good things SilverCrest and Las Chispas is going to bring to Coeur, your share price sold down on the day you announced the transaction. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, not unexpected. I think typically when you see an all-stock premium transaction, you'll see, a few days of chop and some pressure on the shares as trading and markets adjust and absorb. We're obviously looking well beyond a few days of trading and longer term at what this does for the combined company, really for both sets of shareholders. And it's really important, I think, to point out the 3 things that Las Chispas and SilverCrest really address for our company. Our existing assets aren't the highest grade assets in the world. Las Chispas average grade is 25 times higher than our company average. On the cost side, the Las Chispas cash costs per ounce are about 35% lower than our company average. So it'll help to reduce our overall cost profile. And their balance sheet, it's a pristine balance sheet of over $120 million of cash and bullion and growing, and no debt. So on day one, our company's leverage ratio will reduce by 40%, and we'll be able to accelerate this deleveraging process that we've been prioritizing post-Rochester and expansion. It'll allow us to reduce that debt very quickly on the back of adding Las Chispas to our company.
Now, focusing a bit more on your balance sheet, on Coeur's balance sheet, Mitchell, as you suggested, the balance sheet was in, not the best position. At the end of the June quarter, you had debt of over $600 million. You had relatively tight working capital position as well. With the ingress of SilverCrest, how does that enable you to sort of change your thinking going forward about capital allocation?
Yeah, well, we're in the middle of our own inflection point on free cash flow right now, thanks to Rochester. This just adds rocket fuel to that rocket ship going forward. Last year, our company's EBITDA company-wide was just over $140 million. If you fast forward to 2025 on a combined basis, that's expected to be over $700 million with free cash flow of over $350 million. So although we'll be able to reduce debt rapidly, we'll be able to have a lot more flexibility to reinvest into a lot of high return organic growth opportunities, both at Las Chispas and throughout our company. And it'll also help us accelerate our progress up at Silvertip in northern British Columbia, which is a very high grade, very attractive, albeit longer term opportunity for us, that next leg of growth potentially that's sitting out there on the horizon. This just puts us in a better position as a company to advance something like that from a real position of strength.
Now, where do you want to get the company's debt to over, let's say, the next 2 or 3 years? Where do you want to get that down to?
Yeah, well, between the $600 million that you mentioned, about half of that is in the form of a revolving credit facility. And then the other half is in the form of 5 1/8 senior notes that aren't due till 2029. So our first priority is retiring that credit facility of about, I think it was $275 million outstanding at the end of June. We see that being extinguished by the middle part of next year, and then we'll start to build cash. So even though we'll be continuing to hang on to those low coupon high yield notes of 5 1/8, relative to EBITDA of 700 million or more, we're going to be a very conservative balance sheet. And historically, this is a company that's always had a bit of a challenged balance sheet. This really addresses that and puts us in a position to not only take advantage of higher prices like we're seeing, But when and if, and usually when prices decline, we're going to be in a much stronger position in that part of the price cycle to not only to be very solid, but also to be opportunistic, just given the high margin nature of Las Chispas and the much stronger balance sheet we'll have on a combined basis.
Now, in terms of portfolio management, you mentioned that you've got Silvertip. Silvertip is perhaps going to be the next thing in the development pipeline. But you mentioned, Las Chispas has got 25% higher grade than your average higher grade. It's 35% lower cost than your average cash cost. So, in terms of portfolio management, does that mean Coeur will start to look at, okay, well, there's an asset that perhaps no longer fits in the portfolio because it's too high cost, there's too much to do there? Or does that give you the resources to address some issues to really bring some of the other assets into a much more competitive position?
Yeah, of course, we'll always look at anything that we think unlocks some value for our shareholders. But for now, the focus will be on integrating Las Chispas, repairing that balance sheet, reinvesting into the business, into things like at Kensington, we've been investing heavily in underground development and exploration. Kensington next year will flip back into positive free cash flow and be additive to the overall company. Meanwhile, at Wharf, we're excited about some new exploration opportunities to meaningfully extend the mine life there in South Dakota. So we'll be allocating some of this cash flow to that. And then down at Palmarejo in Chihuahua, we just closed on some very strategic ground that we acquired from Fresnillo that really opens up a whole new chapter off to the east at Palmarejo. And that will require some investment in exploration and underground development to unlock that potential. So we've got plenty of opportunities to stay focused on the portfolio as constructed to hopefully generate good returns and keep the cash flow strong and steady.
Now, with SilverCrest, you mentioned this, I think you said 122 million in cash and similar. Some of that includes bullion. SilverCrest holds some bullion on its balance sheet. What is your view on silver companies holding bullion in addition to cash?
Yeah, I think it's clearly paid off and created value in a time of rising prices. I think investors appreciate that alignment that creates in holding bullion versus having cash on the balance sheet. It is a bit of a hedge against the dollar, and I know there are SilverCrest shareholders who really value that bullion program that they have. So we'll take a look at that. Delevering is important to us, but leverage to metals prices and that alignment. We'll listen to our shareholders and take that into consideration.
Now, many people think we are in a rising silver price. The silver price hit a 10-year high of around $32 per ounce recently. What's your view on how the silver market will continue to evolve over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I tell you, the silver demand and supply profile, I've never seen it better. And I've been in this industry since 1995. Just the electrification of everything globally, the world needs more silver, and there's not enough of it. So the demand side is terrific. Photovoltaics, electrification, big data, data centers, AI, you name it. It's all going electric, and that means silver. In terms of its reflectivity, its connectivity, silver goes into more than 10,000 different end uses, and they all seem to be growing kind of at the same time. Meanwhile, there hasn't been a lot of new investment in new projects, new discoveries. And even if there are, the amount of time it takes to develop, permit, fund, construct, those new projects won't be hitting that supply side of the equation for a very long time in most cases. And so that's why having existing operations like Las Chispas, like Rochester, like our other operations, we think really positions us well to take advantage of what seems to be a very constructive outlook for silver.
Now, you're buying SilverCrest. As I mentioned a while back, First Majestic Silver is to buy Gatos Silver. Do you expect more silver deals to come as the months and perhaps years progress?
I think so. It's a very fragmented sector. Investors continually call for more consolidation. Certainly our investors have. Although there's getting to be a very short list of available opportunities out there. That's one of the reasons why we're so excited about having such a special asset like Las Chispas coming into the company, because there just aren't many opportunities like this, especially of this quality. So I do think we'll see more consolidation across the metals complex. In silver, though, it's a very, very small market, very small universe, and not a lot of primary silver assets out there like Las Chispas.
Now, you mentioned that you plan to continue to be opportunistic as and when and if other opportunities come up. That sounds like that's going to be more for development stage projects than perhaps mines that are already built. Do you see the sort of competition for development stage primary silver projects getting more and more intense as we go on?
I could see people going down market to more of the development stage. There is a huge valuation disconnect between operating companies like us that tend to trade at a bit of a premium compared to the earlier stage development companies that tend to trade at quite a discount. For us, the focus is going to be free cash flow, deleveraging, and consistency as we continue to reinvest in the business. It's great to have multiple assets, a balanced portfolio, chock full of organic growth, both near term, medium term, and longer term at an asset like Silvertip.
Now, this deal was announced as Mexico got a new president. Claudia Sheinbaum is 1 week into her 6-year term. Was there any coincidence in the timing of the announcement of the deal and her being sworn into office?
Yeah, look, we wanted to, it was important to us to see how September played out during that transition month with the new Congress in place and the prior administration still in office until October 1st. Bigger picture, I'd say, Mexico's been a more challenging overall environment, but every country nothing's gotten easier for our industry, it seems like. I think in the case of Mexico, the hope and expectation is that perhaps under President Sheinbaum, things will start to move a little bit more efficiently, permitting, things like that. I think if you're an existing underground operation operating in places like Chihuahua and Sonora that are very supportive of mining, if you have those great community relationships and endorsement and a good, happy workforce, those are the kinds of things. If you do things right on the ground, you'll be fine really anywhere. And Mexico has such a deep, tradition with mining, the infrastructure, the geology, the people. It's a great jurisdiction. And if you're in the silver and gold business, it's really a location you need to be.
Now, it may not affect Coeur, your existing operations directly, but it does seem the noise about a possible open pit mining ban in Mexico has died down somewhat.
Yeah, we're probably reading and hearing the same things. Time will tell. I think, again, staying focused on the underground side of the business kind of keeps you out of that headline noise. I guess time will just tell, and we'll see whether that continues to sort of lose traction, or if that continues to be a priority for the new administration. But meanwhile, we feel comfortable having existing underground mines, especially mines that produce a metal that's so key to the renewable energy transition. Solar panels, photovoltaic demand is continuing to skyrocket. So being a part of renewable energy transition is also, I think, a key part for a company like us.
Now, as you mentioned, Mitch, you've recently made a big investment in Rochester. You're now buying Las Chispas. The next project up will be Silvertip. What are the plans there, and what's the timeline there?
Yeah, we need 2 or 3 more years of good drilling to continue to grow and better understand what is one of the world's largest and highest grade carbonate replacement deposits there at Silvertip. We hope to kick off a PEA next year. And then off of that, we can put it through the normal project stage gates of a PFS and an FS, and then hopefully have a project that's worthy of development, say in 5 years from now. But that thing's going to continue to get bigger. The geology and the deposit is continuing to evolve. We're starting to see more copper, more gold, more molybdenum. I think that Silvertip will end up being sort of a classic critical minerals deposit there in Canada, and hopefully that will help expedite the path forward for Silvertip.
Now, the addition of Las Chispas will make Coeur the largest silver producer. What's the bigger vision for Coeur? Where do you want the company to be in 3 to 5 years' time?
Yeah, I think on the back of this, being in the $4.5 billion market cap zip code starts to make us a lot more attractive and investable to more the institutions, more generalists globally. But I think further consolidation could be in the cards for us down the road, whether it's merging or looking at other ways to try and unlock value. Bigger isn't always better. But I think, to the extent that you can get bigger and better at the same time, we'll continue to try and find ways to do that.
Well, Mitchell Krebs, congratulations, and thank you for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to see you, Paul.
Thank you. Now, if you like what you see, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm Paul Harris, and this is Kitco Mining.